What is up, guys? Welcome to Unpredictable Misfits Club. This is our live stream, our break fast live stream, and we just want to welcome you guys. And also, for those who don't know, we have been fasting for 20 days now, and tomorrow will be our 21st day of fasting. Okay, so we started fasting. Our goal was to do 21 days, and tomorrow we're ending our fast. And we believe that through fast, God is going to do amazing things through us in our lives and in everybody else's life. So stay tuned. We are here. All right. What is up, guys? So we are here and we're gonna talk about fasting because we've been fasting for 20 days now. And like I said, tomorrow will be our last day because we decided to fast for 21 days. We're gonna talk a little bit about what is fasting, why did we decide to fast, and why in January, the first month of the year, and why for so long. And we're gonna talk about the power of fasting because it's very powerful. And it has a lot of benefits, whether it is physical benefits or spiritual benefits. We're going to talk about both. And I don't know if anybody wants
and emotional benefits too.
And emotional benefits also. So we're going to talk about fasting. I know some people might have started fasting with us. Maybe not. We don't know. But we're still fasting, you know? And one thing that I want to say about fasting is that fasting is more than just abstaining from eating food. You know, it doesn't have to do just with food. It could be abstaining from social media. But fasting is not just, oh, I'm going to stop eating, I'm going to stop doing this. No, fasting is, I have a purpose. I want God to do something in my life, or I want God to use me. I want something to happen in my spiritual life. So therefore, I'm going to cut every distraction, everything that's distracting me, anything that is stopping me from growing spiritually. I'm going to stop that so I can get closer to God. I don't know if anybody else wants
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the reasons why we decided to do this fast is also to start our year focused on God. Like, no matter, I don't know if you guys been keeping up with us in our lives. We've spoken about, how difficult it's been with COVID and all of these changes that are happening around the world. And that's a lot of distraction, a lot of stress, a lot of things happening in our lives, and we're trying to figure out what does God want to do in our lives, in the lives of everybody around us, and just really putting our eyes on God, like really trying to figure it out. I think it's just starting the year trying to figure it out, having some kind of vision for what He wants to do with us, because going into a year blindly, and we're going to expect something good in the end. We need to know we have to have a goal, we have to have a purpose, and only God could lead us to that, So
Yeah, I don't know if you. Okay, I'll give you that. I'll come back to you. So
Pin it.
So when we fast, we're doing a detox. We're draining out everything that doesn't benefit us, anything that, like we said, distracts us. We just letting all that out and making our souls vulnerable to God, opening up our soul so God could do something, so God could deposit something. Because right now, a lot of us may be filled with disappointment, depression, because last year, 2020, wasn't the best year, if we can agree on that. And this one didn't start the best way either. And something that I want to say though, is that why did we decide to fast in January, the first month of the year? Well, because the Bible talks about the first fruit, giving the first fruit to God. And I'm going to read a quick Bible verse. And it says like this. I'm going to read two different versions of it. Okay, I'm going to read the NIV, the New International Version. Honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of all your crops. Now I'm going to read the New Living Translation. Honor the Lord with your wealth and the best part of everything you produce. So why do we give him why did we this? Oh my God! Why did we decide to do it on January, the first the first month of the year? Well, because we're trying to give God our best. The first thing that comes, the first month of the year, we're gonna give it to God. We're gonna sacrifice ourselves. We're gonna try to kill ourselves. You're gonna say something?
Yeah, it's just you know how usually in the beginning of the year in January everybody's like, all right, these are my goals for this year, these are my plans, and then it's like we completely leave God out of our plans. Like we're like, all right, this is what I want to focus on. These are the goals I want to achieve. But in no way do we ever ask, is this what God wants for me this year? So I think that's one of the reasons for my fasting this like in January was because I wanted to make sure that the goals that I set for myself for this year weren't just because they were my desires, but also because God wanted them for me. Like I wanted, like we've been talking about developing a deeper relationship with God, with Christ, and what better way than to give him the beginning of my year, and then that way it's not just a routine, but it's a relationship, it's a habit, it's a friendship, right?
Yeah.
And it's cool. It was that word detox is huge. It's like pretty much it defines what a fast is really, because I'm thinking about, like you said, about you being filled with anger and depression. We're filled with so many different things in our lives that we've been through. It just fills us up with so much. And then a detox pretty much is to clean yourself, clean it all out. And that's one of my reasons, is really so I can figure out what has strayed me away from God, like taken me away, and that I'm not that deep with God, you know. And I even during this fast, like I've thought about like past things that God's done with me, and like how He's used me, and I'm like, wow, it's been like years. Why am I? It's been years since He used me like that. Why? And it's really it's a detox. He's like really cleansing you, even showing you like this is what's wrong with you, you know, because we're not perfect, and that's that you have to be clear. Like we're not perfect, and this whole detox process, like abstaining from food is not the only thing. Like you said, is that not the only thing we do. It really is trying to figure out what's really deep inside of us, and what we need healing from, what we need to let go of. There's a lot of things that we hold on to that it's like it really is garbage. It's just taking up space in our lives that it's not even paying rent in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, true.
It's just sitting there, and we're giving it power by leaving it there. Like if somebody did something bad to you, they probably forgot. They forgot that they did it, and you're over here harboring that feeling, and you don't even want to see that person because they did that to you. But the truth is, they're living on their lives.
Yeah,
You're the one suffering. Oh, it's been a year since you haven't spoken to that person because they did that to you. I didn't even notice. Like stuff like that. It really comes down to what is it that we have to let go.
And what we have to fill ourselves with.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think during, like I might put you on the spot, but that's what happens when you're married. During this fast, I think I realized that we've completely let ourselves go in our worship relationship with God. I think that's the best way to say it, is we let ourselves go. We became too comfortable with, yeah, I know God is there and He loves me, but I think along the way we forgot to show how grateful we are for everything. And going back to like, I don't know, eight years, I think, since we started dating, 8 years. One of the first things that attracted me to Martin was the way he worshipped, right? The way he didn't care who was around him, and he would just be willing to, like, if he felt in his heart that he needed to kneel down and just surrender to God, he would. And then during these past 20 days of fasting, it was just like we would try to have worship nights at home, and there was just one night where he just threw himself on the floor. I was like, wow, I haven't seen that in a really long time, and it just reminded me. And then I think it did something for our marriage, right? It like the fast, it benefited not just our relationship with God, but our marriage, you know?
There's a lot of benefits from fasting. You never know.
Yeah, you don't know what
Something
you
that I
get from
love
it.
about the fasting is that I feel like it's the most selfish thing you could do. Just because it's about you and God. It's your relationship with God. Like, it's worrying about yourself. And there's a word that I've been like having in my mind, and I've heard it somewhere else. I've been asking God, oh, give us a word for the year. I want a word. I want something, God. I want you to speak to me. And one word that I've been like thinking of, I've been having in my heart is like focus, being focused and staying focused on God, staying focused on serving, on the service for God. Because like we said last time when I was talking to my brother Ariel, they you know, where I believe it's Paul that says, you know, that services are true worship to God. You know, so we need to focus on the service to God. We need to focus on our relationship with Him and forget about all the distractions. You know, and anything that's out there, you know, this is the time when you fast, is the time where you have to focus about you and God. And when you fast, is one of the most challenging parts of like being a Christian and following Jesus, when you fast. Why? Because when you fast is when the temptations come. You know, there's people that probably never offer you food or anything. They never offer you anything. And when you fast, that's the time when they say, hey, do you want a coffee? Do you want a piece of bread? Do you want this? And they come offer you food, and you're like, I can't tell you that I'm fasting because this is not to be boasting. Something that I want to clear up is that a lot of people also, you know, they quote the Bible and they say, oh, I can't tell people that I'm fasting. And I don't think it's that you can't. I believe it's that you shouldn't be boasting. Like, you shouldn't, the Bible says, don't make up a face when they see that you're fasting. You know, when you're gonna fast, comb your hair, wash your face, because like don't physically look like you're fasting, like you're suffering, like you're starving, like you, yeah, don't look like that, because then you're just doing it to get people's attention. You're just doing it for the likes. You're just doing it for the views. Like a lot of people out there for Instagram, you just do things because you want the validation. You know, this is not about the validation. We fast because it's the most selfish thing you could do, because it's gonna benefit you physically and spiritually, and emotionally also. But it will benefit you. It's the most selfish thing you could do, and at the same time the most selfless, because you have to make a sacrifice. You know, and God doesn't require work for you to be saved, or He doesn't require you to make any sacrifice. But when you fast, you do make a sacrifice, because it's like you're paying a price. You stop doing certain things you like to do to do things that the Spirit likes to do. Because you may not want to get closer to God, but your spirit needs it. Your spirit wants it. A lot of you guys have been fasting, whether you think of it, whether you believe it or not. Because a lot of us, whether we fast, we obtain from food, like physical food or not, we're still fasting, because a lot of you guys have been missing the spiritual food. A lot of us have been missing that spiritual food that God has for you.
So they've been fasting the wrong thing.
You just been fasting the wrong thing. You know, and I don't want anybody to think that, oh, when I fast it's just food, because when you abstain from food, when you just simply abstain from food, what you're doing is either a hunger strike or you're starving. So it's not just about, I'm not going to eat, it's about getting closer to God.
Yeah, going back to when I first got saved many years ago, one of the things I battled with was the eating disorder, and I remember that when I was told about fasting, I was scared to fast because I would go on days without eating. Yeah, this figure would go days without eating because I would starve myself, you know, and it was something I was doing because of I was in depression. So I was battling that, and when I was told to fast, I'm like, but then I'll be falling back into my old ways. Like, that's the same thing. And then there, had my leaders explain to me like, no, you're gonna be praying during that time. I'm like, yeah, but I'm still not eating, and that's what I used to do, and it was like this fear of like falling back into that. But it when you understand the purpose of fasting, you understand that it's not about going on a hunger strike, because that literally was what I was doing when I was battling depression and the eating disorder. It was a hunger strike. And then when I fasted for God and for God to talk to me, or when I say God talk to me, I'm talking about audible. God speaks in different ways, right? But it made sense. It made sense, and I just wanted to share that because it was a battle, and I don't know how many people might struggle with that, not understanding fast, and they will enter a hunger strike, or they will be going through certain things and not really understand the true purpose of it,
Yeah, but like, I encourage everybody to at least take one time to get like fast and get closer to God. Even Jesus did it. Jesus fasted, and like I said a few minutes ago, that's the time where you're gonna get the most temptation, because Jesus got tempted. And you might be tempted with the Bible, because that's what happened to Jesus. He got tempted, and the enemy used the Bible. Everything he said was right. He just didn't use it in the right context.
Yeah, he misquoted.
He misquoted the Bible, like a lot of people do. A lot of people get lost in the translation of the Bible, and that's why we call everything we see that we don't agree with, or that we misread a verse, we start calling it sin. You're sinning, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this wrong. That's why we're here. We came to change all of that, because a lot of people just get lost in the translation. They don't read the context. They don't read about the culture at the time. All of that goes together. But we're not here to talk about that. That's another topic. It's about fasting. And there's power in fasting. After you fast, you feel different. And something that also I want to say is that, don't go back to your old ways after you finish fasting. You've been fasting, you've been obtaining from junk food, all those things, or you haven't been on social media as much as you used to, then don't go back to those same bad habits that you had before you started fasting.
Hey, because, I had this habit that when I wasn't doing anything, I would just grab my phone and I'd catch myself scrolling through Instagram, scrolling through Facebook. And then not only during this fast did I abstain from food, but I also did it from social media for a certain amount of hours. And I realized, I could be so much more productive if I'm not just scrolling through my phone. If I'm not just focused on social media and just looking and at videos. And one thing is, the only way to fast is not by giving up food, guys. You can give up something else. Give up junk food. Give up your social media. If you have this one friend who's always I don't even want to say it, but tempting you to go do wrong things and to do certain things, fast that one friend and be like, all right, no, it sounds funny, but
it's true.
fast the friend. Oh my God, yeah, but you don't know how much God can do in a week of fast a friend.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people should fast a few friends, a whole circle of friends.
And it's crazy now that I'm thinking about it. There's a certain amount of days, and I don't want to quote the wrong amount of days, but it takes a few days for you to create a habit.
It's 30?
I think it's 28, 29.
So I mean,
It's around there.
and when you give up something, right, for so long, you're already creating that habit. You're letting go of a habit to obtain a new habit, a healthier habit, something that's gonna benefit you. So I mean, I'm not saying to do it. It really is up to you. But even if you go a few extra days from the 21 days of fasting, you will create worshiping, reading the Bible a little bit more, choosing what you listen to, choosing what you watch. You created a habit, and it won't be so hard anymore. You're not gonna struggle as much. the fasting a friend thing, you'll know that you
gotta fast
you
friends.
don't even have to depend on that friend anymore. Like you don't, there's not that dependency. I'm not saying to let go of that friend,
Yeah.
because you could still, we could meet up or whatever, but you're not craving that attention from that friend. You're not craving that companionship and that time with that friend, because it's been 28 days. It's been 21 days without that person like that you'll survive. And you can see what you really need in your life. Like what really do you need? Like you need food, yeah, but it's not that you need to eat every 5 minutes. We survive without eating for whatever amount of hours you decide to. We survive without social media for whatever amount of hours. We survive. You can survive because this is all extra stuff. This is all stuff that just feeds us and fills us up, and it fills us up with junk. It really does feel. It's like Johanna's talking about social media, and I would catch myself doing the same thing just because I see a little notification. I'm over here clicking because, and then
right away you swipe out like, no wait, I'm fasting.
and you know when it's the worst is when you're on TikTok. And you've been on TikTok for hours, and maybe for a little, like an hour, and it tells you, stop scrolling, it's been too long. And I'm like, oh my God.
It
Yeah.
tells you?
Like, it's like an ad. Like, after, that's how long, I stay on TikTok. I don't post anything, I just watch videos. And when it says that, I look at the time, and I'm like, oh, I've been on TikTok for like an hour. Like, it's bad. But you don't even know. And then in the end, I'm like, what did I gain from this?
That's the thing. Like, that's the thing. That's something I do. I think I have a social media problem or a phone problem because I grab my phone automatically. I'm on Instagram. All of a sudden I don't even know how I get there, and I'm like, oh, how did I get to Instagram? But that's the thing. You spend a certain amount of time there, and you don't really gain anything but toxicity. I don't know if I pronounced that right.
I'll take it.
Toxicity. Yeah.
You created a new word.
Okay, okay. But there's so much toxic content on social media and now you don't even know what's true, what's not true. Like, honestly, it's too toxic. It's too toxic for me, but I'm still in there. And we gotta get every toxic content out of our lives. Because you don't gain anything from being on social media. What do you gain? A new career? Do you gain a better relationship with God? Like, you just wasted a time, and time is precious. Time is valuable. Time is worth. Oh my God! It has more worth than gold, than anything. Because the time that you wasted, you can't get that back. Okay. Something I want to say though about fasting is that I feel like fasting reflects like your hunger for God. You may be hungry for food, but it also talks about like the fact that you could fast. It talks about the hunger that you have for God. How hungry you are for God. Like, that's what fasting reflects in people. If you're willing to go, let's say 21 days of fasting, and then you fast since you wake up. Let's say you wake up at 6 and you fast all the way to 6. That talks about your commitment and your hunger for God. Your body's hungry for physical food, but your spirit and your conscience, you're hungry for something more. And something that I believe in the supernatural. I believe in the spirit world. I don't care who says, oh, this guy's crazy. I really don't care. If you believe in God, you have to believe in spiritual things. Because you can't see God and you still believe in Him. You know what I mean? So I'm somebody that I believe that there's a lot of things that you gain spiritually from fasting. And the gospel, the Bible says that the gospel is not in words but in power. So you can preach all you want, but we also have to show God's power. And that's why I feel like this year we're going to walk in faith. We're going to make decisions in faith, and we're going to let God take control.
Yeah.
And whatever I declare, I'm not going to be ashamed. I don't have to defend God. I don't have to try to defend His reputation. He defends His reputation on his own. I don't have to, that if I say God is going to do this and it doesn't happen, I'm pretty sure it will. It may not happen at the time you expect or I expect, but I know it will. I don't have to defend God's reputation.
That's so funny that you said that, because there's something that during this fast that I put, in there in my fast list. I put it in there, and I've been fasting for this purpose. And then, like 2 nights ago, we got a call from one of my cousins that I haven't spoken to in a while. And God used my cousin to give me a word, and like his word was at my time, and it's at God's timing, not when we want. And just because I put it into fast doesn't mean that it's gonna happen right now. But I'm walking in faith. I'm trusting in God because I know it's gonna be at His timing. And like Martin said, this year we're walking in faith. We're trusting in God. We're laying it all down bare, like here, God. These are the plans I had for myself. I no longer want to say these are my plans, but I want to say, Lord, these are our plans. Are they okay with you? Like, do our plans, are they appealing to you, God? Is this what you had for my family at this moment? I think that's something that it's gonna take letting go and letting God is not easy, but it's necessary, because it's like letting go of the control I have, because I can't say yes, I serve God, and yes, I love God, but still want to be in control of my own life.
Exactly.
That's not how it works. It's supposed to be like, yes, I love God, yes, I serve God, yes, God controls me, yes, God is the one leading me and I'm following Him, not I'm leading God where I want to go, because that's not how it works. And that's something that God's been working in me during this fast, is trust in Him and let Him guide me. I don't want to walk by sight but by faith.
Yeah, and it's like having, like, I can envision just like Jesus walking ahead of us and opening way, because we're always dragging Him with us.
Yeah.
And He's already in our future, so why would He be behind us? And we try to do that. And the fact that fasting is a sacrifice, it brings me back to the cross. Jesus died on the cross, and He was there, and He was thirsty, and He was hungry, and it's like, wow, he had a purpose, he had a purpose, and He went and He sacrificed Himself for you and for me and for all of us. And to see Him suffer, like, our fast it really is minimal to what He did for us. His work was so much greater, and then it's so hard for us to even do that much. It's like being living sacrifices. That verse it's in Romans. It says being living sacrifices. We're alive, but we have to kill, sacrifice every single day something. And during this fast, it's like, what are we willing to sacrifice for God? What are we allowing Him? In Revelations it says He comes and knocks on our door. So He's knocking and He's like, hey, I'm here. Are you going to let me go in and dine with you, have breakfast with you? Are you going to let me go in? Because we can fast all we want, but are we fasting and allowing Him in? Or are we fasting and just having Him still knock on our door and we're not listening to Him? Because the truth is, what is our intention in our fast? Because is it to boast, like you mentioned earlier? Is it to boast about it, Is it to be like, oh, I did it, or I did? No. Are we letting God come in? Are we letting Him come into our lives, removing our addiction to pornography, removing our vice with alcohol or drugs or video games or social media or cursing or lying? Are we really combating that? Are we ready to let go of these things? Are we allowing Him to come in and actually free us from those things? Because in Isaiah it says that when we fasting, we're breaking chains. We're breaking chains, and it's not literal chains. We're not seeing people walking around in chains, but spiritually, we're tied down. I mean, I don't know. We spoke earlier in another live about the anxiety that I go through, and it's like you feel like you're chained down because you're trying to keep control over something and you are tied down. You literally freeze. You can't do anything. And that's when you fast, he's trying to break those chains in us, you know? And I think we have to understand that fasting goes deep, and it's all spiritual. It's a super spiritual thing, if you want to call it. You know, we're spiritual beings, and our spirit is craving that. It's craving God to come in and actually come into our spirits and do something and revive it. Revive what's dead. It needs guidance. It needs source. It needs energy. It's dying. It's dying, you know. I'm thinking of like Harry Potter over here when Voldemort is dying because he needs you know,
connection.
A connection.
Yeah.
It's a source. You know, God is our source. Jesus is our source. The Holy Spirit is our source. And if our spirit is dying, we're screwed.
It's so funny that you mentioned Jesus and the cross, because even in that moment when Jesus was about to be crucified and he had to carry his cross and he was being humiliated, he still led the people that were going to go watch him be crucified. He was in front of them and everybody else was behind him, walking behind him. And he was guiding them to his own crucifixion. He was guiding them to what would have been their future had God not intervened and sent him for us.
Yeah.
You know, we don't see that. We don't see that Jesus led us to what would have been our future. But God said no. God said they need redemption, and he sent Jesus to die for us so that we wouldn't have to do that, but we could honor him in our fasting, in our daily lives, in our acceptance of, okay, God, it's no longer me, but it's you who lives inside of me. And like I'm pretty sure is it in Romans, the verse that says that, you know, I want to do good, but the good that I want to do I don't do. It, you know, we want to do
No, it's
good.
Paul that's
Yeah,
said
Paul
it. I
said
know
it.
Paul said it. I don't remember exactly where, but I know.
We want to do good, but sometimes it's so hard to do the right thing. But it's because we're doing it on our own efforts. But if only we'd let God work in us, then it's, you know, I'm pretty sure Jesus didn't want to die on the cross. He even said it, Lord, if it's your will, let this cup pass over me. Don't let me go through it. Paraphrasing here, guys, not his real words.
This is Johanna version.
This is Johanna's version. It's the JMA version of the Bible. Lord, I don't want to die for them. You know, I want to live. And he realized that his purpose was greater than his desire. The purpose that he was sent on this earth was greater than his desire. If your desire is to be addicted to pornography, your purpose on this world, on this earth, is not to be addicted to pornography. It might be to preach to others who are addicted, because you can say, God took me out of my addiction so that I can be greater and do greater things, you know? But it's not going to happen if we try to do it on our own. Because when you try to do something on your own, you don't get anywhere. Like, go ahead, try to be a lawyer without going to school. You're not going to do it. You have to go to school. You have to get the right education. The same way, we can't let go of things by ourselves. We have to get the right education, read the Bible, trust in God, talk to him, establish a relationship with him in order for us to do the right thing, to do the right work, and become professionals in this relationship that we have with him.
Yeah. Something that I want to say and tell anybody who's watching is that, well, I don't know if that was too low for the mic to catch it, but I'm gonna speak a little louder. So, a lot of people may think, oh, I gotta be perfect, or I gotta stop making mistakes in order to get closer to God. That's so far from the truth, just because there are two people in the Bible that are my favorite characters, my favorite people from the Bible.
Oh, from the Bible.
And they are David, well, after Jesus, they were David and Paul. Why do I love their stories? Because they were both so imperfect and like the biggest sinners of all, if you can say it like that. And God still found mercy, and God still loved them. God still gave them grace. David had a heart for God, and he made a lot of mistakes. He slept with somebody else's wife. The lady she became pregnant, and he
Sent the guy to
he
jail.
sent the guy to be killed. He put him in front of the troops so he could be one of the first ones to die in the army. And Paul used to kill Christians just because he thought he had the right idea about God. And guess what? Jesus still found mercy in him. He killed a lot of people. He was a quote unquote gangster. He killed a lot of people. And he thought he was proud of it because he thought he was doing the right thing. And still he became one of the biggest preachers, one of the biggest Jesus freaks you could were ever known.
Yeah.
He preached the gospel. He went to jail for the gospel. He did a lot for the gospel. And probably whoever met him before he became Christian, before he met Jesus, they probably wouldn't have seen him preaching the gospel. They probably would have seen him following Jesus just because of his old ways. So people may not see you doing better in the future, but only God has the last word. He has the last word. He has a plan for your life. So no matter where you are now, what people say that you're not gonna be anything, that you're gonna grow up to be an inmate, whatever they think of you. Listen, God has the last word. Doesn't matter where you at. You could be in jail right now listening to this message. I don't know, but God has the last word. Just believe in Him, because He could do the impossible possible. For Him, everything is possible. Something that one of my brothers always says is that, and also is in the Bible, that what's impossible for man is possible for God. So people may see it impossible for you to become a lawyer, to become a rapper, to become a doctor, but God has a different vision for you. He has a plan for you. It starts today. You don't have to wait until you're perfect. It starts today. Just look for Him. All He cares about is for a willing heart. That's all He looks for. A willing heart. Somebody who is willing to get to know Him more. Are you willing to know Him more? If you are, type it in the chat. And if you get to watch this video after it streams, you can't type it in the chat, but type it in the comments. It starts today. Don't wait until tomorrow. Tomorrow might be too late. You may not make it till tomorrow. So today is the day to get closer to God. Don't wait because what I used to say is, oh, when I get older, that's for old people. That's so far from the truth. There's a lot of young people that serve God, that have a heart for God, that aren't perfect. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes
I'm not
all the time. But you gotta be, I was gonna say you gotta be man enough, but
Hey.
but you gotta be bold enough to recognize that you are not perfect, that you make mistakes.
You just have to be willing.
You gotta be
You
willing.
just have to be willing.
That's why I love David, because he was just willing to follow God, to follow Jesus. He was after God's heart. He was after that relationship with God. No matter his mistakes, no matter what he did, he was still after God's heart. He still loved God. He still wrote songs for God.
And God used him to be Jesus is a descendant of David, you know?
That too.
God still used David's lineage, thank you, to bring our Savior into the world. All you have to do is be willing. Be willing and God can use you. It's not that God can't use you until you're perfect, because look at, Martin said it, David was not very nice to his own servant, let's call him, because he served under the military, but he wasn't good to him. He took his wife, got her pregnant, and then sent him to be killed. And God still used him because he had a heart.
Something awesome that I just thought about is that David may have made so many mistakes, and other people know him mostly for his bad decisions, but he still, like you said, Jesus came from his lineage, from his, he came from him. You know, he's the son of David, he is called. And the thing is that Jesus clean his name. You know, he ruined his name. He we just know him by his mistake, but Jesus came to clean the whole generation before him, the whole family. Like, you could be the person that God chooses to make your family look better.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I'm the only one that was the first one in my family to stand up and accept Christ in my life at the age of 17. And it took years of struggling and praying and believing that verse that said, me and my house will serve the Lord. Me and my house will serve the Lord. And I would see my brother, my sister, my family just getting worse. They'll get arrested. They'll do that. And I'm like, oh my God, me and I kept just saying it. I felt crazy. But I was like, this is a promise. I got to say it. And every year I remember writing down my family's salvation, my family's salvation. And I just last year, my sister went to a Christian church and she was like, I feel so much better. She was baptized in the Holy Spirit without even knowing what that was. She goes, I don't know what was happening to me. I just went for prayer and this happened to me. And I'm like, wow, you know, like, God, your promise is being fulfilled. It took years. I'm 31 years old. It took years of saying that promise. But I believe, and it's just what you're saying. It's like once you stand up and you accept and Jesus cleans that whole generation. Like, it's like his blood literally wiped it out.
Jesus could have simply just said, oh, but the people before me, they've made so many mistakes. I'm going to be the same way. I'm going to be the same way as my family member, as my past generations. You could be saying the same thing. Oh, but I'm not going to be anybody because my parents weren't anybody. They didn't even go to school, or my grandparents didn't do anything. They didn't even know how to read and write. God is going to use you to, like, erase all that the bad habits of your family.
Yeah.
Every addiction, every vice, everything. You could be the one that God is going to use to clear your family's name.
That's right.
So, we're going to end it just because we've been here for too long. We don't want to bore you guys. But remember, we want you guys to remember fast this way. Face a sacrifice today. So what does that mean?
When you face a sacrifice every single day you fast, is something that costs you, something that's going to hurt you, something of value. You got to just give it up. Every day you got to sacrifice it.
Yeah, just make that sacrifice, pay that price. For everything, you're going to have to pay a price. You know? Yeah, for everything. There's people that are successful right now, they paid a price. They probably had to abstain from hanging out with their friends, going out to the club or anything. Here, if you want like spiritual benefits, you're going to have to sacrifice some time and spend it with God. And we guarantee you that it's going to be worth it.
Yep.
And you're going to see a spiritual growth. You're going to see God getting closer to you. And we believe that God speaks. He can speak in an audible way. He can speak to you. The best way that he speaks to you is through the Bible. So if you want God to speak to you, start reading your Bible. But God can speak to you through many ways. It could be through a person, you having a conversation. Like, God has spoken to me through movies. There's words that I need. There's something that I need in my life. And I hear a quote from a movie and it ministers to my life and to my spirit. So God talks through many different ways. We just want you to, all we care about is for you to have a closer relationship with God. God doesn't care about your situation. You know, he just cares about the person. He just cares about you, not your situation, not what you're going through, but who you are. So, you know, we love you guys. Thank you for joining. Don't forget to subscribe. Follow us on Instagram, Unpredictable Misfits Club. We'll leave the link on the bottom. And thank you for watching. Peace out.